The following content is sponsored and does not necessarily reflect the views of WATD Radio. Now, Paul Ponders on 95.9 WATD. Be a part of the show. Call or text 781-837-4900. Now, here's your host, Paul Solano.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome and thanks for listening to Paul Ponders on WATD, presented by Northeastern Fence and Supply Corporation of Saugus, where they have fences for your kids, dogs, and ugly neighbors. My name is Paul Solano of the PNS Marketing Group, and as you probably already know, I also wear another hat as General Manager of Pearl Street Station Restaurant in Malden. And a huge shout out to Chef Felipe Fitzpatrick and his culinary team. Chef Felipe is a loyal listener through the Odyssey app. So hello to Chef Felipe. And as always, we have lots of activity at Pearl Street Station this huge Friendsgiving celebration weekend. I know that I always say it, but it is true. As Malden's longest running restaurant of 40 years, we have incredible staying power in the greater Boston area and the North Shore. Please venture over the Zakin Bridge and visit us. And a huge shout out to our newest listeners, Robin and Ed. I met this dynamic couple last night at Pearl Street Station. What a fun chat we had about Ed's service on the Boston Police, living in Charlestown and Somerville, and really the whole gamut about working in hospitality, healthcare, and podcasting. We talked about teamwork, and a huge shout out with that to my team of Chef Felipe, Chef Joaquin, Pizziola Muhammad, holding down the fort with my great 1209 staff of John, Jen, Nicole, and Dennis. So keep up the great work, everyone. I'll be back to Malden later on this afternoon, and looking forward to a great Saturday night and Sunday. And also, too, I just want to mention that last night, into the wee hours of the morning, if you will, I spent some time with our bartenders, our Friday night bartenders, and great staff members. Jen, Kim, and Cheyenne. Our manager, Charlie, was there. And we actually did a little sampling, if you will, of some great Christmas drinks and seasonal drinks, which we'll be rolling out. Really liking that gingerbread martini, whatever we end up calling it. And the candy cane mix, plus one other surprise beverage. And I know I'll be reaching out to my dear friend and past Paul Ponders co-host, Dave Boyle. He's with MS Walker, and he just does a great job with consulting and advising us accordingly with some really wonderful products and libations. So it should work out pretty well. So looking forward to that. Jen, Kim, Cheyenne, and Charlie, and we don't mind sampling again. So keep up the great work there. And also, too, I just want to give a shout-out to Aaliyah and her teammates and colleagues over at Mary Lou's Coffee and Route 139 in Pembroke for keeping me energized. Say hi to Molly T, who has the Malden roots for me. But if you have a chance, stop into that Mary Lou's Coffee on Route 139 in Pembroke. So I cannot believe that this is show number 51 as we get closer and closer to 1 year. It's an absolute honor and pleasure to be on WATD in the slot of the Boiling Point with Arthur Boyle. Arthur keeps on plugging away with advertisers, and we're making it happen. And we have a few specials coming up in our second anniversary year. And also we'll be hearing, I believe, next week from Kathleen Keegan, who's a realtor with K. Keegan Realty in Pembroke, in the area, and she's created a newsletter for Pembroke, and you'll really hear that Kathleen's expertise and enthusiasm will shine through. And Kathleen is the wife of Major Sean Keegan, who's on the select board in Pembroke. But of course, behind the glass, we have Tim behind the glass. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing all right, and a little wet here, but good morning, and thank you for those who listen to us and maybe also are tuning in on TV. I don't know how much is left, but our annual hometown Thanksgiving celebration from Plymouth, broadcasted live on WCVB Channel 5.
That is really, I saw all the promos for that parade, and that is the parade to end all parades, really. Just America's greatest parade.
Yeah, and it's nice watching it, working here. Some of our clients, they're all in the community, South Shore community, and a lot of them will sponsor or show up during the parade. I saw a great ad for, I think it was Rockland Trust, and I saw they were inside Tiny and Son's shop, Tiny and Son's Glass, and some other great local companies involved with this parade. And just in local schools, too. They come from all over the state to be here. Burlington's there. I think this morning when I was coming here, I saw a bus from Weymouth. And it's I mean, this is where it all started. So
right, exactly. 1620, it really did. And I know that on Channel 5, WCVB was doing some really great promos, and they're the TV sponsor. And I wonder if that's going to be on rebroadcast or
yes, it will. Yes, they have in the past on Thanksgiving Day. I think they squeeze it in before the big Macy's parade, and then you can catch it again after if you don't want to see the dog show.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. That is. Do you have any plans for Thanksgiving, Tim?
Yeah, we're having our families over, and of course Leo the dog, Joel's parents' dog. He's such a sweetheart. But be good. Lots of good food and good stories. It's always a nice time for Thanksgiving.
Nice. Yeah. And the question around the table: jellied cranberry or whole cranberry?
We actually do both, I think.
You do?
Yes. In years past, we've made a, I don't know if you call it a relish, but it's a combination of orange and cranberry, I think, or orange and turnip. It's so good.
It sounds it. Yeah. I'm really big on all the vegetables, and really, it seems like it's
green bean casserole, right?
Yes, exactly. The turnip is really good. Are you a big turnip fan?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, turnips, carrots. My plate is well balanced with all the goodies on the table.
I try to stay away from the stuffings because I'm on my calorie count, and it's one of those things that I do.
I can tick it up real quick.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. My mom used to make a hamburger and rice stuffing, and she made a bread stuffing, and really both were very good. And I guess that probably explains why I was a husky growing up.
Mom fed you well.
Yes, she did. Absolutely. Yeah. I never met a meal I didn't like.
Same here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tim, happy Thanksgiving.
You too, and your family.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate that.
Both your family that you're related to and the family you work with at your great restaurant too.
Without a doubt. Yes. Without a doubt. And also my WATD family here, really.
Thank you.
And you've made it so easy. Rob Hackala, Larry Nelson, Mr. Perry, of course, have just made it so welcoming to me. And really, it's just really great to be here and looking forward to season number 2.
Yes.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at this point of the program, we have the Pod Pro Entertainment Techie Toolbox segment with Techie Talonzo Amos and Ms. Shelley Wolf, global media firm owner of Toolbox Entertainment, Vice President of Technology Literacy for Pod Pro Entertainment, and a past Paul Ponders podcast guest, episode number 35. Shelley, are you on the line?
Good morning, Paul. How are you?
I am doing well, thanks. How are you this fine day?
I am doing great, thank you.
Awesome.
Listening to all these lovely food choices that everyone's making.
Absolutely. Do you like the cranberry whole or the jellied?
Well, I actually prefer whole, and I was listening to Tim, and I do something very similar: cranberries with orange and other different berries mixed in it, and kind of make a relish type sauce that can be used in multiple ways. So that is how I prefer my cranberries.
Okay. Well, we don't want to get bogged down in this cranberry issue, but sorry about that. Yeah, we are in the neighborhood of Ocean Spray, right?
We are.
Yes.
We can go bogging anytime.
Absolutely. I like that. So, as always, you provide us with so many wonderful tips, and you're in this time zone. I know you're getting back to being situated in Massachusetts, and it's really great to have you. back home, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And also, too, maybe in the future, we're going to have you down in studio one of these Saturdays. We'll have you down in studio. All right. How does that sound?
I would love that. That would be fantastic.
Fabulous. Hashtag indeed on that one. Indeed. So, do you have tips for our listeners in Paul Ponders land today?
I do. And this day, I thought I would focus on a little bit of holiday digital etiquette. So, as holidays bring family, food, and memories, so it also brings all the phone buzzings all around the table. We've all seen it. Someone taking a call during dinner, kids glued to their screens, a family member posting group photos before anyone even knew they were taken. So today's tech tip is all about holiday digital etiquette, simple ways that we can balance our technology, being present, enjoying, and connected with people right in front of us instead of our phones. The first thing to do is think about setting the tone before our guests even arrive. We often assume that everyone has same expectations about phones, but generations use tech very differently, as we know, and one simple conversation can eliminate 90% of those issues. So today I wanted to focus on creating a phone-friendly plan for your holidays, which is not about no rules, but it's about setting expectations. Well, this can sound something like this. Let's keep our phones silent during dinner so we can all talk. Feel free to take pictures, but let's wait to post them until later. Let's make the family room a no-rush space or a no-answer every text space. Or just kindly ask, can we just have some time where we can actually have conversation with one another? Most families appreciate the clarity. When we're thinking about tech tips, reminding our guests to when we sit down at the table, if they wouldn't mind taking a moment and setting do not disturbs or focus mode into their phones so they can focus on that around the table time. Your phones will still work, but it's not interrupting, just like when we go to a venue or many times or even with films to go see a movie. Taking photos and posting, we need to be respectful. So many times people are posting pictures and maybe people don't want to be online. Holidays are where photos are everywhere, but not everyone wants to be on that up in front space. So again, ask before you are posting. Say to someone, is it okay if I'm posting online our photos? Doing a check-in protects people's comfort level and their privacy, and especially around grandkids and kids, right? Parents may not want kids' photos online at all, so respecting and showing care for that is really, really important. Again, we've talked about our safety online, and we just want to remember that, people have their own boundaries, and we want to ensure that they are feeling safe online. So if you want to share photos safely, again, think about shared photo albums through Google Photos, Apple Photos, family online or family-only Facebook groups. There's WhatsApp, message groups. This keeps your memories in your family and not on the entire internet for the world to see. Again, back to phone etiquette during meals and conversation. No one wants to talk over someone's head, but let's be honest, we're all guilty of this. So we can do a few simple things called check and pocket rule. So before the meal, again, check with your phone, reply if you need to, and say, hey, okay, before we sit down for the meal, let's put our phones away, but let's, check your messages so you can feel comfortable like you were able to feel connected to the people outside and not at your table, and then sit down for a nice conversation. For long gatherings, build in phone breaks. Tell your guests, hey, we're going to have some pie, but before we do, let's take a 5-minute break, check our messages, reach out to your friends that aren't here. It satisfies every need and builds healthy habits around the table. Silent notifications, social media, those news alerts, shopping alerts, because they're going to be coming in, all those group chats. Again, just a few hours of being together can drop the stress of a space. Handling work calls or emergencies during that time, sometimes you can't disconnect completely, right? We have members of our families who might need to be actually attached to their phone. But again, having simple ways to say, I need to excuse myself for a moment, so I'm going to step away and take this call privately, and I'll return without any drama. Again, label key contacts in your phone as favorites and used so that only favorites are allowed to call through if it is an emergency. Helping kids and teens manage tech during gatherings. As we know, they are much more attached to a lot of the phones than we might be, so we just want to set healthy boundaries so that they feel that they're still getting the screen time needed. So create technology moments, again, hey, let's go take a family photo together. Hey, let's record a video for Grandma and Grandpa. Or let's just look up a recipe for trivia, or just create your own trivia game that you want to share around the household. Use these tech to connect with folks and not replace them. And again, for breaks, set up a charging station in another room. Phones that will stay there, kids will enjoy them, and it's not constantly at the table. Again, we want to make sure we have time to celebrate and have gratitude at the table and not cell phones. So again, a quick holiday digital etiquette checklist. Ask before posting family photos. Create private family albums for sharing. Step away politely for calls, and don't take them at the table. Give kids phone breaks that they need, not punishments, and make technology a tool for connection. So this holiday season, try one small tech habit that will help you be more present. Silence your phones, check before posting, or use group chats for sharing memories. It doesn't take much to make family time feel more peaceful, connected, and joyful. And that is what I have for us today, of staying connected with our holidays, our family, and enjoying quality time together.
Wow, and those are really helpful tips, and I witnessed it at the restaurant, as you know from being in the restaurant. For any of our listeners who have been to Pearl Street Station Restaurant in Malden, we have a fair amount of space, and we push tables together. We have a lot of reservations and all, and what we are seeing is absolutely amazing as to how many people are just sitting around the table, kids, adults, and they're on their phones, and like out of a party of 10, 7 people are on their phones, and no one is really talking to each other. But they are admiring the food and saying, boy, isn't this delicious? But, it's other than that, it's really amazing. So I can only imagine what Thanksgiving dinner, family dinner, may look like.
Yeah. I mean, it's a new time, right? Everyone's got devices, and those bings are constantly going off. So we just want to make sure that, again, we're spending quality time. Like there's, setting those healthy boundaries of a time and a place when phones really should be used and when they shouldn't. So, we've talked about it even in this classrooms, right? It's the same thing, whether it's a classroom, whether it's sitting around the table, family gatherings. Again, it's just, it can create a moment of stress as well when everyone's phones are binging, and a level of anxiety when no one's having conversation and everyone's just staring at their phone. So again, just trying to really bring people back to honoring people and honoring conversation.
Without a doubt. So, Shelley, how do our listeners in Paul Ponders land reach out to you?
Yes, they can reach us at info@podproentertainment.com.
Fabulous. Well, as always, I'll be, I believe you sent out some tips earlier today on past shows and all, and I have to get in on the PS&All Marketing Group blog and post some more of your very helpful tips and all. And again, I want to thank you, and in the spirit of Thanksgiving season, I want to wish you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for being there, and looking forward to show number 52 and season number 2.
Absolutely. And thank you, and wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a day of gratitude. So thank you.
With that, Shelley Wolf, #Indeed.
#Imagine.
Indeed. Have a great day. Have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you, Shelley.
You too.
Thank you. Now, as Arthur Boyle says, it's not time to make the donuts, it's time to pay some bills. So let's hear from our sponsors.
Have you heard about Pembroke Collision? Price and quality don't often collide under the same roof. Not so at Pembroke Collision at 192 Manakesett Street in Pembroke. Pembroke Collision will work with you and your insurance company to get you back on the road in a safe and satisfactory vehicle. Put your trust in Ben Bastianelli and his crew at Pembroke Collision. Just call 781-293-4040 or find them on Facebook. Pembroke Collision, happy to work for you. Have you tried Bryanttville Pizza Kitchen? From antipasto to baked ziti, specialty gourmet burgers, over 30 different kinds of pizza, and that's steak and cheese. Come on in and they'll show you why they made a reputation as being the best steak and cheese sub in the area. There's nobody that puts it together like your friends at the Bryanttville Pizza Kitchen. chicken wings and fingers, and the famous flavors complement their stir-fry dinners. If subs and wraps aren't enough for your table tonight, expand into Greek and Caesar salads, maybe even a calzone. Anyway, it's all good at the Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. And don't forget, invite them to your next catered event. They'll bring the food. Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. Call them at 781-293-9857.
Are you looking for fencing and outdoor products? Look no further than Northeastern Fence and Supply Corporation of Saugus. When owner Mike Payne's customers have been asked why they chose Northeastern Fence, many said that there were 3 deciding factors: customer respect, excellent customer service, and quality products. I say that you need to add in 70-plus years of a family-run business with truly experienced sales and installation teams. So if you are in the market for fences for your kids, dogs, and ugly neighbors, please call Mike Payne and his crew at 781-233-3324 or email Mike at northeasternfence.com.
Paul Ponders continues on 95.9 WATD. Once again, Paul Solano.
We are back, and thanks for listening to Paul Ponders on WATD, presented by Northeastern Fence and Supply Corporation of Saugus, where they have fences for your kids, dogs, and ugly neighbors. Our call-in number here is 781-837-4900. Again, 781-837-4900. And you could also find us on the Odyssey app. And if you like my daughter Ann listening from California, hi Annie, how you doing? You could just download that Odyssey app and just tune in to Paul Ponders and like Chef Felipe back at Pearl Street Station Restaurant. You're tuning in right now. And as always, I want to give out a shout out to those nonprofits out there. You could reach me at paul@paulponders.com. And if you have any upcoming events, please reach out to me. And I do want to give a shout out to Nicole Leon Tanakiak. Nakos, Nicole, director of Springboard in Dedham, who was at the restaurant last night with her staff of Matt, Sherry, and Laura, and they had a Friendsgiving dinner, and it was absolutely wonderful. If you have a chance, check out Springboard in Dedham, and it was just a wonderful evening. We had a wonderful, Chef Felipe did a great job with a wonderful Thanksgiving meal, Friendsgiving, and it was great. And we look forward to having Nicole and her guests back for a Valentine's Day celebration. So thank you, Nicole. And Nicole is going to be a future guest on Paul Ponders podcast, but also possibly a call-in on the show. So I want listeners to go to paulponders.com to find these subscription links to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as finding past Paul Ponders on WATD shows. My most recent Paul Ponders podcast dropped this past Sunday night with Paul C. Sweater, and it was a great episode. Paul talked about his upcoming book, The Seal in the Bathtub, and really check it out. There's so much chat about whales, bats, environmental laws. It was a really great podcast, and it's been getting a lot of reviews. And Paul C. Sweater is a fellow board member with me on Gotham Whale, and his dad, Paul C. Sweater Sr., was the founder of Gotham Whale in New York. And also a shout out to Kate O'Donnell, who is going to be featured in the next podcast, dropping next Sunday night, not this coming Sunday, but the following. Kate O'Donnell, director of the Joey Fund, with the fine crew out in Natick. We had the film premiere, and drumroll please, the movie that was shown was Eternity, and it's going to be hitting the movie theaters here in America, I believe, right after Thanksgiving. And it's a really great movie. It's a rom-com, but it has a serious undertone. And if you have a chance, check out Eternity. Bottom line, though, is that the event, the Joey O'Donnell film premiere, that Kate, her sister Casey, and her mom Kathy Brian coordinated with Tracy from Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, raised over $1 million, and it's really just an incredible event. And it was the 41st annual film premiere, and it was great seeing dear friends. I got to see Mike from the North River and spent some time with him and so many wonderful people, and made some great rekindled friendships and relationships, and it was really a super evening. So congratulations to Kate O'Donnell, but you definitely want to check out Kate's podcast that's dropping on paulponders.com next Sunday night after Thanksgiving. Well, at this point of the program, we have a new segment we're calling the Health and Wellness Survival Tips with Ms. Sharon Fillier. And Sharon is going to help our Paul Ponders listeners navigate through the sometimes difficult world of health care and wellness. And I believe that Sharon is on the line.
I am. Thank you for having me today.
It's great
Glad to be here.
It's great having you on, and I guess you're kind of sort of on the road in North Carolina, maybe?
I am. I'm down here visiting family, but I decided to make time for you and your listeners, so here I am.
Well, I thank you, Sharon, for being there for us and all, and I think we'll be saying hip hip hooray about today's topic of discussion, right?
Yes. So today I like to focus on something that seems something sort of banal. It's called hip flexors. So whenever you watch a sporting event, hockey, baseball, basketball, you're watching a dynamic ballet dance of hip flexors. So when it comes to balance, rhythm, walking, fall prevention, overall health, it all resides in the hips. So a lot of people think that your leg strength per se comes from the thigh or the quad. No, it starts with the hip. For your Boston listeners, if you watch the Boston Red Sox, when you watch a batter step up to hit the ball, one of the last movements that they do as they are prepping to swing is that they move their hips a little bit. This is to prime the hip flexors so that when the batter hits the ball, the hips rotate opposite, and then the hips now need to turn towards first base. The hips must turn first, and then the legs follow. As Americans, most of us sit all the time. Because of this, it causes a shortening of the hip flexors. So by the time you're 40, 50, 60, and beyond, now when you stand up, your hips hurt a little bit, you have lower back pain, things just kind of get a little stiff around the hips. This is because these wonderful hip flexors shorten when you sit in a chair. So the hip flexors, and by the way, some of the information today that I'm going to convey is going to come from the New England Journal of Medicine. They did a 2024 study on hip flexions, on hip flexors, hip replacement, and how important it is as opposed to resistance training. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So the hip flexors consist of the psoas major and the iliacus. We all have them. The psoas major, just to get technical for those who are concerned, it starts at the T12, traverses to the L5, and it terminates at the head of the femur, or the lesser trochanter. This is a muscle that directly allows you to lift your knee. So if your listeners are sitting, just try lifting your knee. If you lift your knee, you are now engaging the psoas major and the iliacus. This is the muscle that allows you to walk effectively, to stand up, to do all sorts of movements. When the psoas major gets weak, that's when you start to see shuffling. So have you ever seen someone shuffle before?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is due to a weakening of the psoas major. So one of the kind of insidious parts about it, and this refers to the New England Journal of Medicine study, if an individual does not do regular, high-step walking, resistance training, there is a point of no return where a hip replacement becomes inevitable. So this was a study done in 2024, whereas people over the age of 50 that have chronic hip pain, even if they do physical therapy, there can be a point of no return where at that point you must have a hip replacement. So hip replacements begin with the weakening of the hip flexor right there. So how do you strengthen them? Well, it's kind of easy. You sit in a chair and you start doing knee raises. What I tell my participants in classes that I instruct is that if you can work up to 50 to 100 every other day, you can break it up, 10 counts to 10, your hips will be in good shape.
It's a good point. I like that.
Simple.
As I'm lifting my knees, as I'm sitting here, I'm listening to you, and it makes sense.
It's hard, right?
Well, yeah, it is, but it's one of those things that if you keep on doing it in a repetitive way, it isn't so hard, right?
Now, the other part of it is that you need to stretch the hip flexor. So if you're sitting in a chair, you slide over to the right side of your chair, don't fall off, and drop your right leg off the chair and bring your knee behind you. Then you just you drop your shoulders back a little bit. You get a nice stretch in that hip flexor. So there are two things that people can do. You can do your knee raises every day. It's just like walking. You need to get your steps in. Right. So the same thing with this hip flexion. If you can get in at least 100 knee raises every other day, in addition to the stretch I just described, you drop your leg off the side of the chair and you drop your shoulders back so you stretch your hip flexors. Yeah, you have a less chance of needing hip replacement because it just keeps the area worked in. And it's a little bit better than having knee replacement. Having hip replacement.
That's true. Should I ignore the creaks?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So a creak is different from a click. If you have clicking in the joint, this indicates that there is not a proper seating of the trochanter or the head of the femur in what is called the acetabulum, the socket. If you have clicking, you can adjust your legs so that you don't hear a clicking. If you have creaking, that's osteoarthritis. And it's actually very important to move the joint even if you have arthritis.
Okay.
Although it hurts a little.
Yeah, right, exactly. Uh-oh.
Right. So if for your listeners who have traveled to Asia or to Indochina, say Thailand, even Africa, you will see people do something called a third world squat. So this is part of the culture where people, they don't sit in chairs, they just squat. Have you ever seen maybe on documentaries or you see people that just squat while they're working?
Mm-hmm.
So that's called the Asian squat. The Asian squat is one of the indices of the World Health Organization for people who live to and past the age of 100. In order to drop into what's called the third world squat, where you stand and then you keep dropping your bum down till it almost hits the floor, and you can hold that position. This causes the ankles to get more flexible, the back of the calf, the adductors or the inside, the muscles on the inside part of your leg to get nice and flexible. So you'll see that in cultures where they have the Asian squat, they have less knee replacements and less hip replacements.
Interesting. Wow. This is very
so,
enlightening. Really, exactly. As I'm doing all the exercise in the studio, and Tim behind the glass is also, he's moving his shoulders and
he's moving. What I tell my participants, one of the ways to start to get into the Asian squat is very simple. Stand next to your kitchen sink, hold on to the ledge, separate your feet with your toes pointed outward, and just do one squat as deep as you can go, and then push through the heels coming back. Just do it one time. Do it every day, and before you know it, you'll be able to get down into that Asian squat. And also doing those knee raises. If more people knew about just doing simple knee raises, the number of hip replacement surgeries would plummet. And that's what I strive to kind of disseminate to my classes, is to work those hip flexors. So walking is not enough. If you walk, you want to incorporate high knee raises intermittently while you're walking. Does that make sense? So when you're walking, the sort of the length of swing of the legs isn't high enough to activate the psoas major. That only occurs when you bring the knee up. So you will see this in sprinters, distance runners, basketball players, hockey players. This allows them to bend the knee and drop the bum down deep. In hockey, you'll especially see it if it, like say in the NHL, they're trying to get traction on the ice. They need to bend the knee, drop down, and then push off on the blade to be able to score or to hit the puck. So having strong hip flexors is essential to being a really good athlete.
Wow. And I'm looking at Tim before we wind down, but Tim behind the glass.
Doing it?
Yeah, Tim is doing it, and he is so limber. It's absolutely incredible. Tim, do you want to chime in with anything?
Yeah, I agree, Sharon. Those exercises are very important to stay limber and avoid the hip surgery. Yeah.
Yes. And the stretching. So people, so the centenarians in my class, centenarians are people who are at least 100. So all of us are just teenagers, basically. Most centenarians have some type of stretching routine, even if it's just 5 minutes. Very important.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
Sharon, this has been really informative and enlightening and all,
Of
and I'm going to, absolutely, without a doubt. But I want to thank you for calling in from the road, from North Carolina, and being part of Paul Ponders and all. And how do our listeners in Paul Ponders World reach out to you?
Well, they can go to my YouTube channel, the Fill Your Fall Prevention Method, or just go to Sharon Senior Workout and contact me via YouTube, or they can even contact me through Paul Ponders, the website, because you're doing great work over there, and so I would love to have some of your listeners find me through you.
That is wonderful, and I thank you for that. And I want to wish you a
so
happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon. And travel safe, Sharon.
We will. Thank you so much.
No,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much.
Be well now.
Okay.
Thank
Be
you.
well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Well, let's hear from our sponsors before we go to Gene Stico on the line. Let's hear from our sponsors.
Have you tried Bryantville Pizza Kitchen? From antipasto to baked ziti, specialty gourmet burgers, over 30 different kinds of pizza, and that's steak and cheese. Come on in and they'll show you why they made a reputation as being the best steak and cheese sub in the area. There's nobody that puts it together like your friends at the Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. Chicken wings and fingers and the famous flavors complement their stir-fry dinners. If subs and wraps aren't enough for your table tonight, expand into Greek and Caesar salads, maybe even a calzone. Anyway, it's all good at the Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. And don't forget, invite them to your next catered event. They'll bring the food. Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. Call them at 781-293-9857. Have you heard about Pembroke Collision? Price and quality don't often collide under the same roof. Not so at Pembroke Collision at 192 Manakesett Street in Pembroke. Pembroke Collision will work with you and your insurance company to get you back on the road in a safe and satisfactory vehicle. Put your trust in Ben Bastianelli and his crew at Pembroke Collision. Just call 781-293-4040 or find them on Facebook. Pembroke Collision, happy to work for you.
Are you looking for fencing and outdoor products? Look no further than Northeastern Fence and Supply Corporation of Saugus. When owner Mike Payne's customers have been asked why they chose Northeastern Fence, many said that there were 3 deciding factors: customer respect, excellent customer service, and quality products. I say that you need to add in 70-plus years of a family-run business with truly experienced sales and installation teams. So if you are in the market for fences for your kids, dogs, and ugly neighbors, please call Mike Payne and his crew at 781-233-3324 or email Mike at northeasternfence.com.
Paul Ponders continues on 95.9 WATD. Once again, Paul Solano.
We are back, and thanks for listening to Paul Ponders on WATD. The call-in number here is 781-837-4900. And just before I go to Gene Stico, I shout out to an event. I got a text from Annabette, one of my former players in lacrosse. I used to coach my daughter's lacrosse, but she's doing an event in Malden. It's a Winter Wonderland Crafts Fair. It's to benefit the Early Learning Center PTO, Linden PTO, and Sillenwood PTO. It's a collaboration. They have over 50 vendors. It's going to be on December 7th from 11 to 3. They got handmade crafts, jewelry and gifts, photo booths, raffles, concession stands, and more. So anyway, so I got that in for you, Annabette. So if you're in the Malden neighborhood on December 7th, go on to over to the Winter Wonderland Crafts Fair and all. And also, someone texted me, my voice sounds a little scratchy. Well, it looks like I'm going to have some of Chef Felipe's chicken soup Jewish penicillin when I get back to Malden. So we'll do that. But on the line during this segment of the community outreach segment with PS&All Marketing Group and the mortgage originators from Riverworks Credit Union, we have Gene Stico, retired Sergeant, U.S. Air Force. Gene.
Paul, how are you?
I am doing well, my friend, doing well. Living the dream as always.
Great.
Indeed.
Appreciate you having me again.
Absolutely, and it's great having your wife, Natalia, Nat, on the phone last week on the show. I hope her appearance in Milton went well.
It did, and in fact, the Timothy Steele, the organizer of it, had let her and the other people who appeared know that it was their most successful event yet. So hopefully part of that we have to thank you and your listeners.
Well, thank you. I hope so, but I believe that the great marketing that Nat and Tim and Todd and Jilly put out there was really great, as people were singing for their supper, right?
Yeah, it was a beautiful, beautiful afternoon.
That is awesome. Well, Gene, we've had you on several times. We've been keeping tabs on how you've been doing with your book, Engineering Infinity, Earth's First Interstellar Blueprint, and all. But I believe that you have some news about the age of disclosure.
Yeah, well, the craziness continues, as we like to say. There was the premiere of a new documentary titled Age of Disclosure. It was produced by and directed by a gentleman named Dan Farah. It's been 2 years in the making, or 2 years as far as trying to get it out there. And it premiered yesterday. It's narrated by a gentleman who's become a friend of mine, who's a sort of top figure in the field, Lou Elizondo, who was the former director of one of the main Pentagon programs that had started really focusing on the modern era of releasing UAP, UFO information. And, so, it's well received. It has over 30 high-level government officials, including most notably Marco Rubio, is featured in it several times. And in it, he's discussing how, what he has seen as far as evidence in the government. These guys make explicit statements that the phenomenon is real, that there are recovered craft, recovered biologics, and that there is just a legacy system in place that is outside of the knowledge, scope, and reach, let's say, of the elected officials, because the institution, the apparatus itself that sort of is managing all of this, just sees them as temporary employees. And so the effort of this documentary, the effort of the disclosure movement, let's say, as it's called, is to, bring transparency to the issue, in line with all of the other areas of transparency that we need and we hear about more often in government. The Epstein files, for example. It's part of that larger scope of the relationship between the public and the government, and what is truly national security related versus what is potentially holding back important information from the public or advancements when it comes to the type of technology we're talking about.
Without a doubt. And, Gene, I must say, and I have said it in the past when you've been on Paul Ponders, some people will say to me, well, this isn't a Star Trek convention. This isn't a bunch about UFOs and all. And I have to keep on telling them, and you've even said this, and I hope I'm quoting you right, but it's the only known document on the planet that really provides the engineering framework for how such objects could be built and operate, right?
Right, exactly. And, and those listeners, those callers are correct. This isn't Star Wars or Star Trek. This is reality. And, we do have not only the United States government, Russia, Brazil, the UK, we have governments around the world who are acknowledging and publicly stating there are things in the skies that we do not know where they come from, what the origins of them are. These are explicit statements. There is certainly an amount when we hear things about like the East Coast drone sightings in New Jersey that happened the end of last year. There's recently been a rash of them in Europe as well. Those things we know are human technology. Those things we know. They may not necessarily know exactly where they came from, but the governments are careful. There is a very distinct difference between when they're talking about drones and things that they just don't know the origins of versus the things they just don't know what they are altogether.
Right.
And and the difference in that is where even if we now the U.S. will often say, well, it could be Arizona, it could be China, it could be Russia. That's sort of part of the structured narrative that's existed for 80 years that they're trying to overcome right now. But if you watch the reports out of places like Russia in particularly, Russia just comes out and says, we don't know what this is. We know it's not U.S. technology. And if the U.S. if it is, U.S. technology, well, then they've obviously reverse engineered a UFO and now are flying them around. So the responses between the countries are much different in that way. But, the bottom line remains, it is acknowledged there are the things, in the sky. Nobody's saying it's E.T. Nobody's saying it's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. They are just at the point of saying there are things we don't understand. And I think as a result of, this documentary and now really this official record, with the likes of Marco Rubio and House Representatives, Tim Burchett and Paulina Luna, very high level current members of Congress talking about this and the roadblocks they're facing. My assessment is I think we are going to see sometime, within the next year, probably likely sooner, we will see a presidential commission formed to frame this issue at the executive level, and then possibly have what they call the big D disclosure, the head of state making this statement that yes, there are things we do not know where they are coming from, we do not know their intent, but we're pursuing figuring it out.
Absolutely. Now, Gene, in our last minute and a half, if you want to let our growing list of new listeners to Paul Ponders just get a feel and understand where this information from Engineering Infinity, Earth's first interstellar blueprint, came from.
Yeah, so the information in the book is the translated works of my father-in-law, who was a Soviet-era physicist and aerospace engineer. These are, as we received them shortly before he died, and these are his personal notes, private notes that ultimately made their way into the official Soviet program, which eventually the results of that in the early 90s after the fall of the Soviet Union made its way to the United States and is, found in patents and programs that the government and the armed forces have been pursuing since then. So, our mission's been to break that all down and share it and, again, demand the transparency and acknowledgement and accountability.
Fabulous. And how do our listeners in Paul Ponders land find this book?
They can find it at engineeringinfinitybook.com.
And how about on Kindle? Anything coming out on Kindle in the future?
I have the book. I actually always wanted to write it about my experience in intelligence in the oil and gas industry, titled Unconventional. And they can find that on Kindle and Barnes & Noble, just Gene Sticko, Unconventional, Oil, Intelligence, and Consequences.
Wow. Well, we're going to have you back for another segment to further talk about this one, my friend.
Would love to do that.
Absolutely. Well, Gene Sticko, retired Sergeant, U.S. Air Force, I thank you for your service. I want to wish you and Nat and AJ a happy Thanksgiving, and thanks for being here for us.
You too. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Be well now. Well, I want our listeners to stay tuned to WATD for the memories with Ron Dwyer, the grand poobah of oldies rock and roll. Ron, you are a true leader of the pack with great musical memories of yesteryear. So thank you, Ron. Thanks again to Tim, Arthur, Shelley, Sharon, Gene, and our advertisers. But really, thank you, listeners to WATD World and Beyond. Keep Paul pondering. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. #Indeed.